The Irish Republican Army, posing as British soldiers, staged an audacious raid on Gough Barracks. The raiding party infiltrated the armory and, without firing a shot, made off with every single weapon. The Irish Republican Army, the IRA, was alive, rearming and preparing for war against the British Army in Ireland.
They were prepared to kill us like there then, so it was them or us. That was basically the situation it was. We had no qualms about that at all.
The only person that I had in mind to kill was a soldier who also was standing with a gun in his hand. I didn't regard he had any right to stand in my country with a gun.
This is the story of the IRA from 1956 to 1962, and some of the people who waged a guerrilla war on the British Army in Northern Ireland. Those who took part had a profound effect on the future of the Troubles and relations between Ireland and Britain. The results of their actions led to the Irish Civil Rights Movement and paved the way for the Provisional IRA and the descent into brutal sectarian conflict. Three decades after independence and partition, the north and south of Ireland coexisted in stark contrast to one another. The border, separating the 6 counties of Ulster from the rest of Ireland, was a constant reminder of the ever-widening gap between the communities it divided. It was an inconvenience to those travelling north or south, an open wound to nationalists and, to a small section of the population, a call to violent action.
I joined the IRA about 1950, and I joined it because the British Army was occupying 6 of our counties, and I always believed that they should not be there, and that I also believed that the only way to put them out was by an armed and military campaign.
Híl me gur arm ile éireann a bhí ann, agus bhí siad in áireamh féin cogadh féin ceangal a brise le sasan. Bhí aithne gom an IRA, bhí maithar in a measc agus mo uncle agus mo winter sa chu. So bhí aithne gom cannery an IRA fasta agus bhí muine gom asta.
We felt we could make change, yeah. And the change we wanted to make essentially was to get the British out of Northern Ireland. And on that happy day, everything would be well with the world. It was as simple as that for most people.
During the 1950s, the Sunday Press came on stream, and every weekend they would have some action that took place during the War of Independence. And as a young lad, 14, 15-year-old, I was sorry that I wasn't around in those days to take part in these actions.
The official ideology of the southern state was nationalist, Catholic and Republican. The Constitution laid explicit claim to the North. In this context, partition was widely regarded as an enduring evil of British colonialism.
The uprising of 1916 was an assertion in arms of the right of the Irish people to be free. Freedom has been secured now over more than 5/6 of the national territory. We confidently hope that it will not be long until the whole country is united.
As the rest of the world moved towards the Cold War, Irish politicians campaigned against partition, lobbying intensively around the world, but especially in America, home to over 1 million Irish-born emigrants. As part of the campaign, propaganda films like this, secretly shot in the north, were circulated.
These pictures were taken in Fintona, County Tyrone, not in order to arouse national or social hatreds, but in order to expose part of a system of discrimination imposed with the connivance of the British government. It is imposed in order to maintain partition against the wishes of the majority of the Irish people. Mr. Campbell of Mill Street and some of his children, 8 people live here. Mrs. Mullen of Mill Street has 8 children, all living here. Big families and little houses are normal in these back streets of Fintona. 2/3 of the people of this little town are nationalists. That is to say, they are in favour of unity with the rest of Ireland and against being treated as part of Britain. Here at Craigavon Park, not one house went to a nationalist. Craigavon Park is unionist, and unionist it must stay. Only an informed public opinion can destroy the structure of injustice which here in Fintona and throughout the partition territory sustains the unnatural division of Ireland.
I'm very happy to be in New York again. It's some 18 years since I was here last.
Despite their best efforts, the anti-partitionists failed to raise much support. America, while sympathetic, was unwilling to offend its NATO ally Britain, especially at the behest of a country that had absented itself from the Second World War. With this diplomatic channel closed, the Irish government was left with little but empty rhetoric. Into the vacuum left by the politicians stepped the IRA.
All that came out of the anti-partition campaign was that it was a failure, and if you like, it was a further justification to the IRA for armed action, in that this effort, which had been backed by the government and the whole society really, had achieved nothing.
Both the Irish Republican Army and the Southern Irish government shared one goal: the establishment of an all-Ireland state. They both saw themselves as the inheritors of a violent struggle for independence from Britain that had begun in 1916. But the IRA had long been declared an illegal organisation because of their opposition to the state and their commitment to achieving a united Ireland through physical force.
Leanúint laiciúil a bhí ann go raibh gach iarracht dá dhéanamh go bunreachtúil agus go politúil chun é seo. A leighis ach go raibh rialtas hasna rá. Stop. Tá an Jordan an, tá muidne ag gceannas na sé chunda agus fanna muid mar sin.
The IRA underestimated the extent of unionist aversion to Dublin rule. In fact, like most Southerners, the volunteers knew virtually nothing about unionists or unionism.
Ní raibh mise riamhs na sé chunda agus ní raibh túram gom céns áit a bhí an éacar. Stocha gur hílamar gur sais bhalla a bhí timpeall an áit. So nuair a cúmar ann ar dós bhí áring dul ar únsaí thar teoran in eiceile inis céan. Agus bhí mar cúpla míle ar an taobh agus ní raibh visa gom go raibh mí ann.
The only unionists we were conscious of were those wearing bottle green uniforms and carrying pistols, and the British Army in Northern Ireland and the B-men. But we weren't really conscious of the unionist people at all, and we didn't know any of them. I certainly knew none of them.
The Royal Ulster Constabulary, a quasi-military police force of 2,800 well-armed, well-resourced local men, had over the years amassed considerable intelligence on the nationalist community. Backing up the RUC were the B Specials, over 12,500 armed reservists. Untrained and much more openly sectarian than the police, they were responsible for the deaths of many Republican sympathisers during the sectarian conflict of 1921. 30 years on, they were still widely feared by the Catholic population. The local men could also call on several thousand British